David Hammons is an African-American artist who will move to Los Angeles, where he studies art before moving to Harlem in 1974. In his installations, he generally combines sharp social commentary with beguiling sensory elements. He's trying to draw us into the piece, making comments on modern society and frequently the African-American experience within that modern society. In this vein, we're going to be looking at his piece, Public Enemy. I should point out, many of the pictures that I'm showing you here are in black and white. Some of these installations, because they are so recent, in this case 1991, come under slightly different copyright rules. There are not good photos of the piece from the period, and so I'm looking at museum archive images, which are frequently in black and white. Now, in Public Enemy, Hammons is enticing the viewer to interact with the installation. He's doing so in a number of ways, for example, scattering autumn leaves on the floor and positioning helium-filled balloons throughout the gallery. So imagine walking in to this gallery, into this room. What you're going to be faced with first is a floor with these leaves that are crunching underfoot, maybe a little bit slippery. Maybe you have to pay attention a little more to how you walk. The balloons and the ribbons from the ceiling are going to brush against your face and your hair. It's going to be a kinesthetic experience. It's going to be a tangible experience, one that you cannot avoid. You can't silently walk in the room. You can't avoid all of the ribbons. And this draws the viewer in. It makes it more powerful. Once drawn in, we're going to focus on the centerpiece of the image, which is a large series of black and white photos in this square form. So you see the side here, you're going to see the front from the front, the side. And these are photographs of a sculpture in front of the American Museum of Natural History in New York depicting President Theodore Roosevelt triumphantly seated on a horse, flanked by an African-American man and a Native American man. Both men appear to be in the role of the servant. Now, this is kind of an interesting idea. It's a very postmodernist approach. It's a very modern approach because by showing us photographs instead of recreating the actual thing, in this case, the sculpture, it kind of gets us to question the sculpture in and of itself and its presence within the room. Is it meant to represent the actual sculpture or a representation of the sculpture? Or maybe we're supposed to read it simply as photographs. This constant questioning of what we're seeing is, again, very, very postmodern. Now, around the edge of the installation, circling the photographs of the monument, were piled sandbags, with both real and toy prop guns propped on top, aimed at the statue. Now, this is going to be very evocative, very provocative, because it gives us the idea of possibly shooting at a photograph or a well-known sculpture, maybe Kehinde Wiley-esque, arguing that the sculpture should be removed, and by the way, it has been. But it also gives us ideas of shooting towards, well, a president. And so this ambiguity is very, very intentional. It's trying to draw all sorts of different ideas out of you as the viewer. By selecting evocative found objects and presenting them in a dynamic manner, it encourages viewer interaction. He's basically attracting the audience in and then revealing the racism embedded in received cultural heritage and prompting re-examination of American values and cultural emblems. What he's trying to do is not say you are racist. What he's trying to do is make you question your assumptions. And the interesting thing is, let me point out that this piece was created in 1991, but yet in 2021, 30 years after its creation, it is still relevant. And that's rather remarkable and rather unique amongst art these days. A lot of it speaks so much to the society at that moment that it's very, very powerful, but it loses some of its message as you move forward in time. Here, 30 years later, we still get the same message from the piece. It becomes a very powerful piece. And that's part of the remarkable art of David Hammons.